You know those teasers of Netflix series that show up on YouTube? Just show up in your feed without any prompting? That's how I was introduced to Netflix Leviathan series. I quickly realized that this is alternative, fantastical reimagination of World War I, which piqued my interest. Because, to those who don't know, I am a historian. I have a bachelor's degree in historical studies, in fact. I'm especially interested in 19th and early 20th century. Indeed, my friends, I am not only a heretical hatter, I'm also a historical hatter. But that's a story for another time. Anyway, I glanced at reviews of the series. IMDb gave it 6.6, IGN gave it 9 out of 10. And as I kept looking, the bigger the gulf in ratings I found. Many people praised it. Many said it was crap. So I decided that the best way to spend my time was to watch this series. And by the title of the video, you can probably guess that I was disappointed. Not in the plot. The plot was decent, if predictable and a bit bland. But I won't begrudge someone for enjoying a grilled chicken or vanilla ice cream. I like them as well. Not every story needs to be some grand vision or be completely unique. No, my problem is rather shallow world building, and this is what I want to talk about. To be clear, I'm talking show, not the book series by Scott Westerfeld. It was based on. People already told me that the book is better, but adaptation being worse than original is nothing new. I intend to make this short video to appease algorithm gods, as I'm working on episode 7 of Star Wars X Warhammer 40k, the 4K special, and the next installment in Mass Effect vs Warhammer 40k. So much to do, so little time. Anyway, before we begin, remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, the whole shtick. You know what to do. If you can, support me through Patreon, or donate to Star Wars X Warhammer 40k art budget on Ko-fi. It's thanks to you this series has its own art gallery. With that out of the way, let's begin. Okay, so the main thing in this series I want to focus on are technologies used by the two distinctive factions of humanity, Darwinists and Clankers. I know this is a slur for AI now, but I'm not making it up, that's what they are called. Quite conveniently, countries that are part of Entente are Darwinist, while Central Powers follow the path of a Clanker. Simple question is, what is the difference between the two? It's the tech tree they use. Darwinists use bioengineered animals and biomachines, while Clankers choose to build mechs and walkers of iron and steel. So, visually, there is quite a bit of difference between the two. They are also quite unique in terms of how they operate. War machines of Clankers are big, heavily armored and heavily armed. This is a personification of brutal industrialism. Big, faster than you expect, heavy hitters. They have mech horses, two-legged tanks, and a literal battleship walking on 8 legs, obliterating their enemies with naval cannons. Those metal monsters crush their foes under their feet and reduce all opposition to dust with overwhelming firepower. Darwinists, on the other hand, are more bizarre and clever. Their beasts lack heavy armor, but they can heal. They don't have massive guns, but can release swarms of smaller animals that can deploy smoke or small bombs. Or they call upon literal kaiju if they need some heavy hitters in naval warfare. They also have bizarre creatures that can work in unorthodox environments, accomplishing tasks one would need specialized equipment for. And now you are asking yourself, okay Hatter, this all sounds really neat. All that sounds like interesting background. So what is the problem with the world building? Well, the problem is, this is basically as deep as this goes. The story of Leviathan focuses on titular Leviathan, a flying whale beast aircraft warship of Great Britain. This isn't just any flying whale. Oh no, this is the pride of the British Navy. The plot focuses on how this magnificent vessel carries out several missions, moving from place to place, usually running away or avoiding forces of Central Powers. And this alone cracks the foundations of the world. Why, you ask? Because why the hell is the pride of the British Navy on some random mission where they fly all over not just Europe, but half the world? Britain, France, Switzerland, Turkey, Siberia, United States, they go everywhere the plot needs them. In the books, they also apparently visited Japan and few other places. And I'm sitting here asking myself, why does this flying warship go on solo missions in the middle of a war? Where is its escort fleet? Why a military asset of such importance is given those tasks rather than being used on the front lines of a great war? If Leviathan was an older vessel, maybe previous pride of British Navy, but now outdated and frankly kept in service only because the war is happening, I wouldn't have much problem with this. But that's not the case. This is one of, if not the most technologically advanced British vessel, and they make it go on some errands rather than fight in the Great War. I know it has special cargo and all, but I think smaller, faster and a bit more stealthy vessel would be better for this task, rather than a literal flying whale. On top of that, we don't see any vessel similar to Leviathan. I know it's special and all, but is it really the only flying warship of Great Britain? Where are the others? Why are there no other flying whales around? Oh, we see plenty of airships, just not anything similar to this one. So this is another crack in the world building. Why we don't see any alternative designs of flying beasts of similar caliber? Are they really that rare? Everything points to that they should be more common. Germans have a dedicated harpoon weapon designed to capture such flying beasts, and yet Leviathan is the only vessel of this class we see in the series. Let's move further down the line with another big problem. We don't really see either walkers or Darwinist beasts in civilian use. There are few examples, but as something which was presented as a core difference between nations, their economy and how they see progress, we see mostly military examples and little, if anything else. And you might think that's fine because it's a World War I story. But as I said, most of the story brings us far from the front lines on some errant tasks all over the damn world. There is no reason for us not to see more examples of technology in civilian use. Iron Harvest is a typical military game, and yet we see more examples of Tesla mechs used by civilians in this world, but most importantly, we see that other types of technology, tools and animals that were commonly used in early 20th century are still used in Iron Harvest. That's not really the case in Leviathan. Okay, to be fair, we see some during the mission in Istanbul, but frankly, I find them all ludicrous. We have mech minotaur brass bulls, mech elephants, and what I can only call a sphinx with a body of a goddamn scorpion. I struggle to imagine how those mechs are useful in anything else but parades. They aren't functional in the slightest. Honestly, those designs feel kinda racist to me. Like, there is no logic in Ottoman design, only mythology and Oriental themes. Are we really simplifying Ottoman Empire to this extent? Is this story really puts style over function to this ludicrous level? Same with Darwinists. We don't really see anything that would fit civilian use. I think metal melting slugs and message recording lizards are the only example of that. Everything else seems to be either military use or experimental tool for the higher echelons. There is also the fact that in the series it's almost presented as if Clanker and Darwinist technology replaced basically everything else. It's hard to find a wheeled vehicle, a simple truck, in the series. Iron Harvest has a similar problem with those adorable walking trucks, but there are still normal wheeled vehicles as well. They are still a thing. Same way, which really weirded me out in Leviathan, horses are mentioned, but never used. This is something that Iron Harvest gets right. Polania and many other factions besides still use horses, which makes sense, as horses were very commonly used in the early 20th century. I didn't see any bioengineered horses from Darwinists. In fact, they seem to replace horses tasked with pulling carriages with some wolf lizard thing, which is just weird for the sake of being weird. I think that bioengineered horse would fit the world better. The Clankers, on the other hand, have a literal mechanical robot horses, which sure, cool and all, but I think the world would be more believable if they still used classic cavalry. It would show that for all the differences, this world is still very much connected to the early 20th century that we know. But, I will be honest, I could forgive most of those things. But one thing pissed me off beyond all others. In this story, set during World War I, with all those bizarre technologies on either side, with bioengineered beasts on one side and towering walkers on the other, we are not shown the war itself. And some who watched the series might call out I'm talking nonsense, but please, think about it. Yes, the Leviathan takes part in several skirmishes, and we know the war is happening, but we have no idea what is happening in that war. Can anyone who watched the series tell me what is happening on the front, or hell, simply who is winning? How do the front lines look? How did the mix of central powers, their impressive mobility and firepower, influence the situation on the front? How do the Darwinist beasts fare on the front? Is trench warfare even a thing in this timeline? Does either side use mustard gas in the war? Was it specifically used to hurt bioengineered monsters of Darwinists? Or maybe it was the Darwinists who developed some devastating bioengineered airborne toxin to stop the advance of the Clankers? Did Clankers develop any dedicated weapon against bats and birds deployed from flying beasts? Maybe some kind of sonic weapon or more advanced flak cannon? Did Darwinists create living bullets filled with acid that is designed to melt metal? How do the German U-boats fare against underwater monstrosities created by the British? How does the front look from the perspective of a simple infantryman? What weapons do they have to face against both bio and mechanical weapons deployed in the field of battle? I can't continue to ask those kinds of questions, and the answer will remain the same. We don't know. And some might say this isn't this kind of story. But for the crying out loud, we don't need to see the front itself. We can hear the stories, see our heroes talk about the situation on the front, how different technologies influence the outcome of battles and where the fronts are at a given point in the story. We can hear how Russians broke through the front near Warsaw thanks to their bear cavalry, or how another Leviathan-class airship was shot down over Verdun. Maybe a story that a Hercules-class walking dreadnought was seen approaching the Alpine front, causing fear in the ranks of Italian soldiers, despite reinforcements sent by the French in form of several mammoth war beasts. But we get nothing. We have no idea what is happening, and without this information, the entire story feels as if we were in a bubble. There is the Leviathan, the crew, the heroes, the locations they are at the given moment, and nothing else. This is my biggest problem with this series, that for all the creativity, for all the interesting designs and technologies in use, in this World War I story, we do not see the realities of a war in this universe. It feels like, despite all the differences, there was no real impact on the world or historical events. It makes the entire world feel shallow, without impact. And that's a real shame, for there is so much potential here, yet none of it is realized. Not in my eyes. And that's about it for today. I hope this smaller video was something which you found enjoyable. I kindly ask you to like, comment, subscribe and ring that bell. If you can, support me on Patreon. I also encourage you to donate to Coffee Art Budget, so that the art gallery for Star Wars X Warhammer 40k series could grow even more. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear viewers and listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself. While you can, I wish you most heretical day. Ta-ta!